Blue Jays family, what's going on everybody? Sid checking in and welcome back to another Blue Jays video. Everyone, the Toronto Blue Jays season is officially underway and the first two games has officially concluded with a win against the Baltimore Orioles in the second game yesterday. But that is part of what I want to talk about today because from watching these two games against the Baltimore Orioles to start off the season, one thing for me has been made pretty clear about the Toronto Blue Jays, that I believe that if they do this, especially from what we saw in that game 2 against the Baltimore Orioles, it very well could decide whether the Toronto Blue Jays has a very productive season or a very underperforming season. And you may be wondering what that thing is, and that is something that you will need to watch until the very end of this video to know, because not only will we be talking about that specific thing, but we'll also be talking about how this game 2 against the Baltimore Orioles went and what the Blue Jays did to make sure that they got that victory. So without further ado, let's get started. Now right off the bat, the main factor or the thing that the Toronto Blue Jays need to consider when facing the Baltimore Orioles, or rather any team that they face throughout the course of the season, is the fact that their mentality needs to be strong going into this game, because man, oh man, was that very visible, and I would say probably the biggest factor as to why the Blue Jays could not win that game 1 against the Baltimore Orioles. Because when you look at the game, both game 1 and game 2, firstly for game 1, the game was on home soil. Number 2 is there was a lot of optimism in the air, especially given the fact that we had a very horrendous season last year, so we needed a bounce back. And number 3, against the Baltimore Orioles, if we won that game, being game 1, it would have set a really good mark. And because of all that, you could really tell there was a lot of optimism in the air for the Toronto Blue Jays. However, when that game started, being game 1 against the Baltimore Orioles, it was clear as day that one team wanted it more. And it was shown through Baltimore just having home run after home run after home run. It got so crazy to the point where after the third home run that the Baltimore Orioles did, you can really tell that the Toronto Blue Jays just mentally checked out of the game and didn't really apply pressure to not only get back into this game but do anything in their power to really secure the victory at the end. And what resulted from it was a massive 12-2 victory for the Baltimore Orioles. Basically to say that the Toronto Blue Jays just allowed the Baltimore Orioles in that game 1 to toy with them all afternoon. And as a fan, that was pretty rough to watch. But the same thing cannot be applied for game 2, because coming into game 2, and I appreciate this so much from the Toronto Blue Jays, their mentality was on a different level, because instead of thinking about the individual plays such as getting a double, getting a single, or anything like that, they're all thinking about one another. And you saw that a lot in game 2, because there were times when the star players, whether that be Vladdy Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, and all the other players that are batting for the Toronto Blue Jays, all of them didn't really care about them getting out as long as their brothers were able to run around the bases and get those runs. That's all that mattered to them, and you could really tell that even in the situations where they hit a fly ball and it lands in the glove of an outfielder, they were still celebrating just because of the fact that because of the miscommunication that the Baltimore Orioles were doing throughout the course of the game, they were able to get runs off that. And that is something that is very important that the Toronto Blue Jays need to do going forward, because once the Toronto Blue Jays understand that baseball is not just a personal stat game but also a team game where the accumulation of all these runs equals a victory, I believe that when facing the stronger teams, being the Mets with Juan Soto, New York Yankees with Aaron Judge, the Mariners with Rodriguez, the list goes on and on. Oh yeah, and LA Dodgers with Shohei Ohtani and the whole squad with that. During those matchups, I believe that this formula where you think about the team rather than your own personal stats will help them greatly in the long run, and will be able to not only win the games that we're expected to win, but also will be able to get some unexpected wins as well, which is definitely going to help us when we are trying to make that playoff push, especially given the fact that the division this year for the Toronto Blue Jays is a very tight one and a very competitive at that. Now, speaking of mentality, there are two major players for the Toronto Blue Jays that we need to shout out after Game 2 against the Baltimore Orioles. And those are the rookies for the Toronto Blue Jays, being Alan Rodin and Will Wagner. Because man, oh man, did they make a statement in this game. Not only through their offensive abilities being the batting and making sure that they were really bolt up energy for the Blue Jays, especially during those times when the Toronto Blue Jays seemed a little sluggish during the course of this game, but also on the defensive end, because there were so many big saves that Will Wagner and Alan Rodin did that really changed the tide of this game. Because truthfully so, if they didn't make those plays, it very well could have went a different direction, and it also would have gave Baltimore some needed motivation that they need to win this game, which ultimately did not happen because Alan Rodin and Will Wagner made sure that didn't happen. And by doing this, it leads back to the mentality aspect, because not only were they very locked into this game and wanted to win the game, especially because no one wants to see the Blue Jays go on a 0-2 record, but also they wanted to show the fan base what they can expect from these two players going into the future. And from what we're seeing based on Game 2, I know it's one game, it does look very bright, and I can't wait to see how they continue to grow and become more formidable pieces for the Toronto Blue Jays as the season continues. So yeah, that wraps up my thoughts on what we saw so far between the Baltimore Orioles and the Toronto Blue Jays in this series. And as I said before throughout the course of this video, or hinted throughout the course of this video, mentality is everything for the Toronto Blue Jays this season. Because if they're in a correct mental space, they will be able to not only get some very formidable wins, but also they'll be able to get some unexpected wins against those very high caliber teams, being the LA Dodgers, New York Yankees, or anyone else that is really trying to make a deep playoff push. And we'll need to just continue to see how the Toronto Blue Jays respond in their future games of the series, as well as their future games this season, because if they play with a really good headspace and everything that comes with it, the sky's the limit for this Toronto Blue Jays team, and as a fan, I would love to be part of every moment of it. So with all that being said, let me know in the comments below how you all feel about the Toronto Blue Jays versus the Baltimore Orioles series so far. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Or do you have any other thoughts as well? I'd love to know all of it. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give me one of these. Smash that subscribe button and hit that notification bell to get caught up with all the latest Blue Jays news, as well as all the sports news that I'll be covering on this channel. And yeah, with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video where we talk more Blue Jays or more sports in general. And until next time, Civ, signing out.